Well, good morning, everyone. You guys came to the late service, late for us, 11 o'clock. Did anybody get up a little bit early today? A little bit? It was yeah, Lee's going, no way, why would I get up early? But why I got up a little early today, it was a little, not chilly, but it was cooler outside, and I knew it wasn't too long till fall will get here. Fall will get here. It's not quite summertime anymore. A little cooler this morning. And even in Texas, which is hotter than all get out, we have a little bit of fall. And I've heard there's this one place not too far away where they do have trees that turn like the trees in the north. And it's a special little valley or canyon not too far away in the hill country. And some of y'all have been there probably. You know what it's called? Remember what it's called? These are the lost maples. I guess they had been visiting Texas and then they got lost and stuck down here, and all their friends went back up north. Yeah, Lost Maples, and it's a state park. Some of you probably been there. I have never been there when the trees were turning, because I heard it's really hard. Everybody lines up for 50 miles to see the 4 maple trees that are turning color. But I did go up there recently just to visit the park before things have changed. It's a beautiful park, by the way, really nice. Probably one of the best parks I've ever been to in Texas. And I visited the park entrance once before, but this time, second time, I went with some folks and we all went together to walk one of the trails of the park. We went to walk one of the trails. So we get there and we went up to pay our dues to get in the park entrance fee. And they had a whole bunch of park rangers, not about 3 different people lined up inside the little welcome office. We paid our dues and we got a map of the place. A really nice map, actually, very detailed. So we picked out the place we were going to go to and which trail we were going to walk. And our destination was something not very exciting by name, which is called Campsite A. So we thought we had time to make that journey to Campsite A, walking in Lost Maples. And so we found the trailhead where it starts at the end of the parking lot. And because this was our second time there, we did know that the paths, they're not exactly like mulch paths or paved. They're pretty rocky. So we had worn the right shoes this time, something a little heftier than sandals. And we had prepared and made little knapsacks, little like school bags full of some stuff to eat along the way, just some trail food and some fruit and some water, that kind of thing. And we were very hopeful, maybe a little too hopeful. We actually put towels in the pack, thinking there might be some water, like in the riverbed. That was not to be. They did have little ponds left over from where the river used to be, but they were kind of ponds. And when we went wading all ankle deep in the Texas rivers, we did have something to dab our feet with when we got out. So we had our map, and we had talked to the rangers, and we had some provisions along the way, and we were all going to go together. Funny thing about, 3/4 of the way up the trail, there's something that was not on the map. There was a sign on the path, and it said, Monkey's Rock. Monkey, like the animal monkey. So we said, oh, what must this great monument be? So we stepped off the trail just for a minute, and we went through a little wooded area. Sure enough, there's a cliff there that's been worn away by water and maybe someone's chisel, I don't know. And it looks like the face of a monkey. It's got ears out to the side and a big open mouth. It's not hard to know how they picked the name, Monkey's Rock or something. And the tradition is you have to take a pebble and throw it into the mouth of the monkey to appease it so that you can make the rest of the journey with good luck and goodwill. And there was another group there, another couple actually, and this guy, let's just say he was not a baseball player. He was having some difficulty making the throw into the Monkey's Rock. I gave him a little help. Here, this one's for you. So, after we had visited the Monkey's Rock, we went up to campsite A, which turns out to be kind of a flat meadow. There's nothing really there at campsite A except some flat grass where people have put their tents. Nevertheless, we stopped, had something to eat and drink, did our little rest time, and made our way all the way back to the parking lot. We did wade into a few pools of water. And the whole thing, which took us like half a day, was a whopping 3 miles each way. So a little bit of an adventure, kind of fun. And it was kind of empty because nobody was up there. It was a really hot day. It wasn't Lost Maples, look at the leaves changing day. It was just walk on the path day. But it was quite a little adventure. It works out just perfectly to tell this story because Jesus says that everybody is on an adventure. Every human being is on an adventure and a journey so that their heart, their spirit, can reach its destination and be reunited and reconnected with God, with the Spirit from which all of our spirits come from, the source of our very life. In this life, while we're doing lots of things like raising families and going to school and doing hobbies and going through this life, our heart is also on a journey to find God. And Jesus says it's a journey just like you would walk a regular physical journey. He says you can stumble along the way. Be careful because your heart is thirsty and hungry and longing to be reunited with God, and you spend a lot of time searching for the right path. Once you find the path, you can stumble along the way. And he's very adamant. He says, look, anything that causes you to stumble on your path as your heart seeks God, gosh, you need to cut it off and get rid of it. Because nothing's more important than your heart finding its destiny and destination and home in God. Nothing's more important, he says. Everyone's heart here is on a journey and a path to God. And there are a couple of things, like in a regular walking journey, that could cause you to stumble along the way. Could cause you to not make your journey so smooth. One is this, just like on our little Lost Maple journey, it's very good if you have a map. There's a map for Lost Maples in every path in the park, and there are spiritual maps as well. That as you're walking along in your spiritual life, it'll say, it's going to get steeper now, and watch out for that monkey's head on the right-hand side. And look, you're about to cross the river again, so be ready. Look for some water. There are spiritual maps for your inner journey, the journey of the heart to God. And it's very helpful for you pilgrims and us as a community to have a map. Otherwise, we could wander around for a long time, not knowing exactly which direction to go and what to expect along the way. There is an inner landscape, and there are spiritual maps for each of us to look at as we progress through this life, as our heart searches and returns to God. A map would be a good thing. Of course, I'm kind of a map person anyway. I really like maps. So on this journey, on this little Lost Maples thing, I'm like, well, we've got another 100 yards, and here we are on the map. And we're about to cross the river again, and then it's going to get steeper in about 3 steps. Yes, there it is, and then back, and then I have my nose in the map the whole time. I'm one of those guys, by the way, that doesn't really like the GPS things that talk to you in the car. I want a map. I don't want this lady telling me take a right, take a left, do a U-turn because you missed the turn. And she's always grumpy at me anyway. Just give me a map. So another thing that would cause us to stumble along the way, besides not having a map, is not having a guide, someone who's walked the path ahead of you, who can tell you and guide you along the way. Those rangers who were at the office, it looked like they were three, I would say, middle-aged to older women, all wearing the ranger uniform. I think they've worked at Los Maples since the Ice Age. Well, I'm just saying. And they have walked those paths a million times. They know every tree out there, every rock. So they could tell us. We said, which one can we walk this afternoon? They said, well, try trail A. You'll make it. And you'll make it back. It's very helpful as your heart is seeking God to have somebody who's walked the spiritual path just a little bit ahead of you who could come back and tell you how it's going to go. Here's the map, but you need somebody who's actually walked it before you to be like a guide or someone who can show you the way. Without a guide, it's pretty easy to stumble. Pretty easy. The last two things, it was really helpful on this little journey to have something to eat along the way. So we took some fruity things and some dried nuts and things, and a couple bottles of water. The spiritual journey is pretty similar. It can be a long journey, and you're going to need some refreshment along the way. You're going to need some food along the way, some provisions. You wouldn't start a regular journey without some provisions. And the spiritual journey, the same way, as your heart is finding its way back to God. The source, your destiny in life as a human being is to know and connect with God. What are you going to eat along the way? In the Episcopal world, for example, one of the ways we find some nourishment and some provisions is through the sacraments, we call them. When you take the bread and the wine, when you receive it, that becomes like inner food for you, food for your spirit. As you remember Jesus, who is the true leader and guide, the first one to take the journey, and has come back to help disciples to finish it, he says, look, I'll be with you always. Remember me. Take this bread and this wine. Symbolizes my body and blood. It'll give you strength for the journey. We need spiritual food along the way, else we'll get really tired. We may stumble. We may not get up. Jesus says, whatever causes you to stumble, get rid of it. Because it's so important for you as people to find your way to God, to find your home in God. So, get a map of the spiritual terrain. Find a guide who's been there before, who can help you along the way. And take some food with you. Something to feed your spirit, feed your soul as you journey to God. Finally, this. Who are you going to go with? Who are you going to go with? You want to go by yourself? Do you want to just kind of step out without a map, without any food, without a guide? And just kind of hope you find your way by yourself? It's a long journey. Lots of people will say, find some folks to go with you. Some spiritual friends. Someone to walk with you. We went as a group. It wasn't like it was real dangerous. Los Maples at 2 in the afternoon. But it was nice to share the journey with someone. Nice to say, oh, look at that tree. Oh, look at the river that's not there. Oh, look at the monkey rock. Let's do it together. That's kind of what the church is for. That we as a community are all on an interior journey, walking until we find our home in God, our destination in God, our goal in God. I think it's much better to do it with some friends, to laugh along the way, or cry along the way, or just to go with other people. It's going to be a long, lonely path by yourself. If you were to stumble and fall, who will be there to help you stand up again? Who will pick you up? If you go with some spiritual friends, they'll be there to help you. So, we went to Los Maples, had a map, talked to a guide, brought some food, did it with some friends. Everyone's heart here in this room, every human being, is longing to have an interior journey, a journey of the Spirit. So while we go through this life, your heart is walking and journeying towards the divine, towards God. Jesus would say, anything that causes you to stumble on that journey, very serious. So take a map with you. Talk to a guide. Bring some food. Do it with some friends. And your journey will be completed, and you won't stumble. Jesus says, anything that causes you to stumble, better get rid of that. So today, as a community, we are together as spiritual pilgrims. We're going to take some food when we take the Eucharist. We'll follow some guides. We'll use a map. And we'll keep on our journey until our heart finds its home, not in campsite A at Los Maples, until our heart finds its home in God. The Lord bless you on your journey. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.